Disclaimer, JackFed's content is not meant to replace the actual viewing experience of watching RuPaul's Drag Race. The videos discuss the content of the show, but they don't nearly make as much sense without the context of watching the episode. You can watch season 15 of Drag Race on MTV or WoW Presents Plus if you're outside the US. Hey guys, it's Jack. I know I am late with this one, but episode 3 happened a couple weeks ago. Again, I'm playing catch up, but as I'm recording this, I already have the Snatch Game one recorded, and then it's going to be this one, so I think I'm going to upload them back-to-back days. Episode 1 is still in limbo. I got ghosted by YouTube and I'm still trying to get it back up, so we'll see what happens with that one, but we're just going to keep on moving on. But first, let's start off with the episode. The episode opens up, we get the recap, and then they sit down on the couch and recap what happened in Untucked as well. I know we're only about 4 episodes in at this point, and episode 5 is coming out this Friday, so I hope this changes. But what I realized is that so far in the season, this is the only Robin content we've gotten, which really sucks for me because Robin was my preseason pick. I adore her so much, and I really hope that we get more content with her, but it's just not looking the best for her right now. So they recap the relationship from Untucked, and I think by them bringing it up in the actual episode, it may set up a storyline later down the line of them lip syncing together. What I've noticed so far about these 40-minute episodes, outside of just being way too short still, is the fact that everything that they showcase is very deliberate. First of all, I think this just really hurts the product of the show because we only really get to learn a little bit about some of the queens. It's killing a lot of the fun because in the previous seasons, we got to really sit down with the cast and get to know them. But with the shorter runtime, we don't get to do that as much outside of the things that are very catered towards the episode. So that brings me to the second point. Only the people who really matter in the episode and those who matter down the line are getting the screen time. And this just may be something that I noticed, but when a queen gets flooded with screen time in one episode without getting very much before that, my brain immediately goes one of two places. Either they're gonna win this challenge or they're gonna go home. And I just don't think it's nearly as entertaining as the balanced storylines from previous seasons where we just kind of get to know the queens. For example, this episode saw Poppy sashay away, and before this episode, she got barely any screen time. So in this episode, she got way more confessionals, was talked about way more, and then once we saw her not do very good in the challenge, it kind of felt like, oh, it's already her time. So I just feel like the storytelling overall has taken a big hit, especially when it comes to the ambiguity of what's going to happen in the episode and later down the season. Maybe there's going to be a big payoff later, but my favorite part of the season is learning about the cast and the queens, and that's just been harder to do. And of course, that's no fault to the queens or the editors or the producers, it's just the fault to the person who decided to cut their runtime. Anyways, another very deliberate showcase of what's going to happen in the episode can be seen with Lucy. She faltered in episode 1, and then she's determined to prove the judges wrong, and then we see that. Her 3-part arc was very interesting to watch, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go from here because I don't really know. Rue walks in, talks about the challenge, and then Spice says that she's really excited to do this because of course she has gone viral many times. Immediately that means I'm going to hone in on Sugar and see what happens, and stuff did happen. Something that I do want to mention that I thought was really interesting is the fact that the teams were picked so different. They've done this with the captains before, the person who won and the person who survived the bottom lip sync, but the way they chose the teams is so different than normal. Anitra got the first pick because she won the challenge, it makes sense, and then she got the second one, and the third, and the fourth. This is just really the part that I don't understand. A lot of the time in these team challenges, you may have to work with queens who weren't your first pick. But Anitra got the lineup that she completely wanted, and that's really great for her. It very much showed in the challenge. I just think when the captains go back and forth with these picks, it shows a lot of adaptability in the competition. Amethyst then picks her team, and we get another moment with Poppy being a little cocky. And of course, they left that in because it was going to be ironic later. And then moving on to the writing, we get more moments with Poppy kind of taking over the entire challenge. She's throwing out all these ideas, and the way it's edited, it seems like she is completely talking over Amethyst and is just like complete chaos. I don't think that's how it was in the moment, but it was edited that way to show how chaotic the humor was and how it's not really going to translate in the actual sketch. And then we move on to the leftovers group. Sugar's throwing out a lot of ideas, and then it's shown that Jax is taking over. This moment had a lot of discussion around it, with people throwing out the word bully towards Jax. Sugar and Jax squashed this tiny dispute very long ago, and then people blew it out of proportions when it aired. Jax is no bully, and I do feel for Sugar because I don't stand up for myself as much as I should, so I really relate to that. But it's a competition setting. Jax was taking over to try and make sure there's control and they can actually get stuff done. But yes, that was to her detriment. And that was immediately seen in the next scene when they start to film. Of course, the filming part I feel like is the first thing to go when they need to cut things out. And we definitely saw that here, and what's interesting is we saw everyone struggle. We didn't really see anyone do good.
Okay, this is not gonna be great.
I felt like we didn't get a good sense of who's going to be in the top or even the bottom because everyone was seen struggling. And something really good about the filming portion of these acting challenges is that it establishes the queen's talents and personalities. Who remembers their lines, came prepared, can work a camera, who's struggling with that. But with this segment in the chopped down version, we don't really get a good sense of who's good at that. All we get is the struggle, and that's kind of bringing queens down instead of pushing them up. Even Sasha, the winner of the challenge, is only seen struggling here and has a lot of pressure of the name that's on her back. In the end, the win does feel really great because it reassures her that she has what it takes. But there's just a little too much whiplash with the fact that she wasn't doing super well and then went on to win the challenge.
Everybody can tell that I'm maybe not God.
You were a joy to direct. Anytime I gave you anything, you listened.
I just wish we got a little moment of clarity in the filming that shows that she was actually getting it towards the end. After a very brief filming process, we move back to the workroom. Sugar talks about how she needs to stand up for herself more, and then we get the religion and family talk between Malaysia and Mistress. It's an amazing conversation. When these moments can actually happen, it makes the show 10 times better. What isn't given the right amount of time though is the runways. The queens are even expressing this on social media. The runways are costing thousands and thousands of dollars, and they only get like 10 seconds to showcase them on TV. It's even down to the narration of the runways being cut. It's just so frustrating. Because I recorded the Snatch Game video first, I went on a whole rant about Aura in that one. You'll see that tomorrow. Just by not giving the queens the correct amount of time to showcase their runways, we really don't get to soak them in as much and appreciate them for what they are. Also, probably the most useless side note I'm ever gonna do, the sound effect that they put behind Mistress's chain is just so random to me.
Brooks. I love to mix streetwear with high fashion.
LinkedIn.
Dick Cheney's daughter?
She's one of the Cheneys.
Especially when you look closely, and I'm pretty sure that's not a real chain, so I don't know why they did this. As for the infomercials, I think they were all funny, but of course Anitra's was the best. I think by having both Sasha and Selena there to ask questions or just give out information, it makes it the most coherent and easy to follow. Sugar definitely had the most jokes in her group, and in the critiques, they got on Jax because they were like, I don't remember your character, what even were you? And the thing is, I think they cut down on Jax's material in the final product to kind of push this whole storyline. She definitely didn't have a lot of lines, but at the same time, I don't think she had zero like they kind of gave her in the actual infomercial. As for Amethyst group, yeah, it was okay, but of course, I think that Poppy's humor didn't really translate super well. In the right setting, I think it could have worked out, but especially after watching the other two, it just lacked a centralized character with a reaction to all of the punchlines. Think back to All-Star 6, for example, with Ginger's group. It was just joke after joke after joke with punchlines, but not a reaction to them to keep them grounded. Especially when you're doing blue humor, you need a straight man in order to double down on the jokes. The critiques then come as usual, and one of my favorites, if not my favorite moment of the episode, happens between Michelle, Amethyst, and Rue. I just think when Rue says to Amethyst,
I'm a nose queen too. I fucking love your nose. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
this is just a textbook reason of why I come to watch Drag Race. It's an insecurity that people deal with. I didn't expect for it to be talked about on the show, but just by them talking about it, it's really, really beautiful. And then we get to the lip sync, which has been pretty debated online, but I do think Amethyst won pretty hands down. And the editors wanted to be known the logic behind why Amethyst stayed. They throw in the confessional about her playing Diana Ross in this lip sync, and it makes the most sense. I think what Poppy did was funny, and if it was a different song, she could have probably stayed. I don't think we've ever seen someone run back and interact with the queen standing in the background, which is honestly pretty surprising because we're so many seasons in. So if there was a way to camp up this song where it would be more powerful than just kind of serving actual glam, the win would have gone to her, but again, I think Amethyst just really embodied what needed to be embodied. Overall, I think this is a fine episode. It's a very standard one after a premiere. Something like the RuPaul Mark thing on season 13 or the World's Worst on season 12, it's a challenge to ease us into the competition, especially when they're working in groups. The runtime is definitely noticeable here, but it's not as bad as next week's episode, which was just a wreck. So stay tuned for that video coming tomorrow. And one last thing that I want to talk about, the queens online have been receiving so much hate, and it's been really frustrating me. I have a platform, I want to make sure to spread as much positivity as possible, so after you finish watching these videos, please go send a kind message to one of the queens. It is so easy to uplift your favorites instead of trying to tear down others, and it's honestly so much more fun. So please go spread some love to these queens. They don't deserve any hate that's being given to them. I'll see you very soon with another video.